Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 20th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Liana. How you doing, Liana?
Uh, I'm just so grateful to be here. Like, it's really an undeniable feeling, and I can't wait to talk about all of this stuff.
I am very grateful as well. It's a wonderful moment. It's a wonderful part of the season where Camp Comeback is over and things are finally happening.
Things are finally happening with all of the insanity of Cliff getting blindsided, voted out, coming back in, and now winning HOH. I mean, everybody is scrambling. There's a ton that's going on. I mean, a ton. So many conversations, so much gameplay, and everything is reshuffling. And this is what I love about Big Brother.
Yes. So we are here to talk about everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 21 live feeds. It was day 31 in the house, and we still have our reigning head of households, Sir Cliff Hogg. And he is going to be talking with a lot of people one-on-one throughout the day. In fact, he's just going to be like camped up in his HOH room and barely gets a second to himself. As anytime one person leaves, the doorbell is just gonna ring and another person's gonna come in.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, especially right up until nominations, it was just Cliff one on one with so and so, Cliff one on one with so and so, and it just, was a lot of him talking about what he's gonna do, trying to get information from people, and then when those one on one conversations were done, the person talking to Cliff would run back down and then talk to everybody else in the house about what did Cliff tell you, what did he say, do you know what he's doing, do you know what he's planning? So that was sort of like the two dynamics, especially up until the nomination ceremony.
Yes. So we're gonna get a lot of that throughout the day. Now, remember, yesterday we talked about what is Cliff's best move here, and in my opinion, Cliff's best move was and still is that he should put Christy and Tommy on the block, as those are the two who are most capable of getting back with the Sam, Nick, and Bella group and reforming some remnants of what used to be there, and put the house structure back in a bad place for Cliff. Not to mention the fact that if he is able to successfully get Christy out of the house this week, then her power is now gone, and they don't have to worry about that either. So that was what I was looking for in the day. And then also another big part of the day is Christy's power and whether or not she's going to actually use it. I kind of assumed that she would, no matter what, because in my opinion, it's a no-brainer that Christie's power. It's not just a flat veto. We've talked about this. It only upgrades the existing veto, and that means a couple of things. It's not super great at just protecting yourself. Really, the only way that it protects you is if you have a majority vote already and there are two people from your alliance on the block, then one of your alliance members wins and you use it, and then if you are able to control who sits next to you and you have a majority vote, then you'll be able to keep yourself safe with the diamond power of veto. But with everything that's been happening, Christie's majority is faltering, and if she loses a number this week, she won't have a majority vote next week. So it's not going to save her in that particular event. So now the only way that it saves her at all is if she is the target of a backdoor, and somebody who won't put her up as a backdoor wins the veto, and she uses the diamond power of veto, and that person puts somebody other than Christie up. It's just a very, very specific use case. Like in my opinion, the diamond power of veto, it's this version of the diamond power veto, its use is to keep your majority or to keep yourself safe when you have a majority. And so I think she should use it. Absolutely. It's only good for 2 more weeks after this anyway. She should absolutely be using this, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there are a couple things. One, this is like the longest terms and conditions sheet I think
Yeah.
I've ever heard in terms of like what actually it does. I mean, because if she activates it, and let's say she doesn't have it, she can be put up. Like, let's say Sam wins the veto, for some reason and takes a person off, he can put her up. So that's what's absolutely insane about this. And then the other thing is that everyone in the house knows essentially about her power, at least that she has it, and maybe some details of what exactly it entails. And when you have been so vocal and so open about this power and then talking about whether or not she's going to use it, I mean, you almost want to get rid of it. Like, it's a liability at this point. So, yeah, I also thought that would be the case, but we'll see if she actually chooses to do it or not.
Yeah, because again, just like assuming that she loses a person here, then going into next week, if the same situation happens where somebody outside of the 6 or what will be the 5 wins HOH and puts 2 of the 5 up on the block, and let's say one of them is her, and let's say it's her and Tommy. Tommy wins the veto. She uses the diamond power of veto. Tommy is able to replace himself with Bella, and then it's her versus Bella on the block, but they still don't have the numbers to save Christy. So she still needs to win the veto herself or have somebody that will use it on her anyway, which would have kept her safe anyway and won't protect the other person on the block. So it's completely useless once she doesn't have the majority vote. Except for, again, to keep herself from being backdoored. But everybody knows she has the power, so it's obvious that all you need to do is put her straight up on the block if you want to target her.
If only you could have your version of Cliff Notes, like your updates in the house for Cliff instead of vice versa, then maybe you could give some advice. But I think what Taran is building towards is that Christy is not one of the targets that Cliff is talking about today. So I think we can start to go through everything.
Yes. So that's that. I think that's a necessary setup for what's to come here. Because Cliff is going to start talking with people, and he is going to first talk with Nick in a brief conversation, and basically lets Nick know, and he's going to give the same spiel to pretty much everyone he talks to. He is going to say, "Hey, look, I have my personal feelings are conflicting with my rational thoughts, and I see 6 numbers over here and 3 numbers over here, and these 6 want me to target these 3, but that just unfortunately does not make sense, so I have to go ahead and target one of the 6 to even out the numbers a little bit, even though I'm not particularly fond of Nick and Bella." And he's not going to say that to Nick and Bella. He's going to leave that part out when he talks to them, but he will tell it to everyone else. And so that's his big spiel. And then he also says, I'm not here to keep myself safe for another couple of weeks. I'm here to, try to do my best to make it far in this game. I'm not just going to, tremble and do what the big alliance wants me to do so that they don't target me for 1 or 2 more weeks. I'm going to take my shot. And that's what he wants to do. And Nick likes to hear that. That's what Nick was saying last night. He says, I'm going to take them down with me if I can. And so Nick is excited about this. Cliff tells Nick, you are safe. You are not going to be targeted by me, at least this week. And one of those 6 has to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Cliff is, pretty clear that he is going to take a shot at the 6. It's then just a matter of figuring out who exactly is going to be on the block. And Jack is the one who really is the main target for Cliff. And then he sort of spends some time trying to figure out then who that other person is going to be. And so, like, he talks to Nick about the fact that Jack would be his target. And so he does bring that up. So we do know at least that Jack seems to be one of the people that Cliff wants to target out of the 6.
Yes. And so, what he had been talking about the night before about potentially Jack and Tommy or Jack and Sis, that's definitely going to be his starting point here. He is still thinking about Christy, and he'll talk to Sam next. And one of the things he talks to Sam about is that, if Christy didn't have the power, then maybe that would be one thing, but he's a little wary of putting Christy on the block because she has the power. And Sam is going to really reinforce that by essentially saying, yeah, let's not touch Christy. I think that we can work with Christy, Sam says. I think that if you leave Christy alone, then we can pull her in. We can work with her and Tommy, and therefore he kind of pushes that, you know, Tommy probably isn't the best pawn to sit next to Jack either, because if you don't touch Tommy, then that will help us bring Christy and Tommy in. Sam, we're going to learn, really trusts Christy, and he really wants to work with Christy and Tommy, which is exactly why I think they should be the nominees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Tommy and Christy are really just in the middle of everything. And even Cliff later in the day says, he has conversations with Christy and Tommy. I'm sure we'll get to it, but talking about how much he likes them also. So, they are very clearly in the middle. And it's actually interesting because Sam in this conversation talks about, I'm pretty sure Christy is just playing Jack. Like, she doesn't actually want to work with him. She's just playing him. Ooh, not exactly the case.
It's
but
been the
it
tune
definitely
she's
shows the
singing
loyalty.
all season long. Jack. From week 1, remember, she had so many Jack bashing sessions, and so Sam feels like this is very real. That she's been wanting to take the shot for a while, so she'll be on board with this and she'll work with us. That's what Nick and Bella and Sam have wanted for a long time, and so Sam is really going to be pushing for this all day long, and I think he will continue to push for it as the days continue, unless the Diamond Power veto works out, as we'll talk about. So Sam pushes for Cliff to nominate Jack and Jackson, because Cliff, if he's not going to do Tommy, his other option was, he was thinking Jack and Sis, but his problem with that is that he doesn't want the house to flip on Sis. He feels like that's a bit of a waste of a shot there, and he wants to make sure he takes out somebody important enough, and Sis is just not important enough, unfortunately for us, and so Sam is going to push Jack and Jackson. Cliff doesn't really want to do that either, because he wouldn't like to see Jackson go home either, and he kind of was like, I'd like to leave Jackson and Holly alone if I can, but it is something that he starts to consider as he talks to more people.
Yeah. It's interesting because he doesn't want Jackson to go home. He doesn't want Sis to go home. He doesn't you are starting to run out of options, buddy. Like, either you have to take a shot at 2 people, or you have to be willing to put someone up as a pawn. I think he maybe would have gone with Tommy or Christy as a pawn, except that he's having Sam in his ear telling him, no. Like, we really want to work with Tommy and Christy. Like, they would be willing to work with us. They'll definitely go against Jack. And so because Cliff has that sort of voice in his ear, I think that is really influencing him away from Tommy or Christy going up.
Yes. So then Cliff is going to talk to Bella, and luckily this is such a weird... I had a weird time yesterday because Bella and Nick were like one of the few voices of reason in the day. And I occasionally found myself like, yeah, go Nick and Bella. What? No, wait a minute. What's happening?
I know. It was very bizarre. Like, what is happening now?
Yeah, because Bella is going to be in this conversation and she's going to say, Cliff, don't trust Christy. No, Christy is not trustworthy. She burned us. She is terrible. We need to go after her. I'm going after Christy if you don't go after Christy. And I'm just like, oh, she knows. Why doesn't Sam know? She would nominate Jack and Christy if she had the ability.
Yeah, although to be fair, Bella says so many different things.
It's true.
And so just because if, it's like what a stopped clock is right 2 times a day. I don't know if that's a right analogy. Where's Pooya? I need his help. Anyway, so she is talking about how, Christy is definitely not to be trusted. Like, it's not worth it to go after the couples like at this point because Christy is much more dangerous. And then, of course, like reassuring Cliff that he's fine. You can work with us, like everything is going to be okay if you stay with us. Like, those are the people that you have to go after. So yeah, she tried.
Yes, she does try. So, as we talked about before, as Cliff is talking with people, there's panic downstairs. There's lots of talk about, what is he going to do? Is he going to, Christy's, he's putting me up. He's putting me up, definitely. The universe told me.
Brussels sprouts,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Yeah, definitely putting me up. Yeah, I mean, of course. Like, of course that's what she's gonna say.
Yeah. And then we're gonna get an HOH lockdown. Please report to the HOH room for a lockdown. They're like, whoa, what? We haven't had a chance to talk to Cliff. Because Cliff got called to the diary room, and like very few people had talked to him, and they're like, no, no. And they're like, this is what happened last time. Nick got called in at like noon, and they're like, no, we haven't talked to Cliff. That's not fair. That's not fair. It's like, you had all night last night. So they're freaking out, but then they get called to the HOH for lockdown, and that is because it's time to introduce have-nots.
Yay! Yes, very, very exciting. Have-nots, slop, although the have-not room looks really comfortable, so like that doesn't really make any sense.
The have-not room is the camp comeback room.
Yeah, oh
Like,
yeah.
with no change,
But
basically.
it seems like the beds are even more comfortable though than the camp comeback beds. So I'm not like entirely sure what that was all about. But yes.
Yes.
Here we are.
And of course, you know, I think the only reason anybody even cared about have-nots at all was because they wanted to see Jackson as a have-not. And Jackson is absolutely the kind of person when people ask for volunteers, Jackson's like, oh, yeah, I'll take one for the team. Yeah.
Of course. Ugh, he's such a martyr. Ugh, a regular Robin Hood in the game of Big Brother. And yeah, so actually, I think everybody apparently volunteered, or
Yes.
most people volunteered. But we are truly blessed to have Jackson as one of our have-nots. It is a great day.
I believe it's Jackson, Kat, Tommy, and Christy.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Yeah, it was so fun to come back and see Jackson going over all of the calorie and nutritional information and slop. And I was like, oh, does this mean he's a have-not? And yes, my dreams were answered.
So he is later in the day. So this is just basically, 6 to 8 hours in. I was hearing Jackson having a conversation in the bathroom with, it might have been Nicole, or it might have been Kat or Holly. I don't remember now. I might have been Nicole, actually. And he was like, oh, yeah, you go through hardships in life, and eventually someday you look back and you're like, oh, I'm glad that happened. Like maybe even just like 50 years from now, I'll probably look back and be like, I'm so glad I was there. And they're real tough things that you deal with, and they make you a better person. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I walk into that pantry and I see all that food, and I'm just like, oh, I want to see, I see a big thing of grapes in the refrigerator. Do you know how much I love grapes and watermelon? And do you know, like, you guys got Raisin Bran Crunch this week? I have wanted Raisin Bran Crunch all season long, and they haven't had it since week 1. And now all of a sudden y'all have Raisin Bran Crunch, and it's hard. It's hard. I'm not going to lie. This is something, it may take me 50 years to get over this, but someday I will be a stronger person for it. But man, this is hard.
I mean, my heart really does just break for him. What hardships he has to endure in this household. I like to think that production was messing with him on purpose by including like super expensive fancy fish, the cereal that of course he wanted the whole time. I would love to think that that was on purpose. But I mean, it's really just breaking his heart.
Yeah. So you're getting what you want from a Jackson have-not situation. So back to the game. Sis is going to get her chance to talk with Cliff after she was like, what, it's not fair, I didn't get to talk to Cliff. She goes and she talks to Cliff. This actually was a good conversation. She talks to him about all the typical stuff. Cliff doesn't want her to be targeted. She appreciates that. They talk about they like each other and they don't want to see each other targeted, blah, blah, blah. After this conversation, Cliff is not going to really be talking about Sis as a potential nominee as much. He feels good enough about it. He feels like, why rock this boat? He doesn't want her to be targeted anyway. Sis, mostly off the table at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Cliff is pretty much straight up and like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm not targeting you. We'll see how it goes. So he leaves it a little bit open, but like really you don't hear him talk about her after this conversation. There was one thing, a conversation between Cliff and Jack that was earlier in the day that I scrolled past in my notes that I need to mention because Jack said some line about when it comes to morality, and then like goes into how Nick and Bella are awful, and I had to mention that. So now we may continue because Jack
Yes.
is the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a conversation with Jack. It didn't go really anywhere.
Yeah. It's like not important to the storyline, which
Yeah.
I'm sure is why you didn't bring it up. But it was just a lot of like Jack being like, "Oh, I respect your game. I just respect you so much. I just have so much
Yeah.
respect for you, and I stand by your decision because I respect you."
Very
Like,
typical Jack.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so Cliff then talks to Tommy, and he wants to know from Tommy, hey, if I keep you and Christy safe this week, am I gonna see a return on that investment? Like, is that gonna be enough? Are we gonna be cool? Tommy, of course, is like, oh yeah, of course. That conversation we had before the HOH still stands. I absolutely would love to work with you. I'm obsessed with you. You're the greatest. I think that we can really be good together. And yeah, you should definitely not put me on the block.
Yeah, like of course. What do you think he's gonna say? I mean, Cliff is coming from a position of power where he could easily put Tommy and Christy up on the block. Of course, Tommy is gonna be like, of course, totally understand. Totally understand. Like, not targeting you. Like this is we are definitely gonna work together in the future. So, it's hard because as if you're in Cliff's position and you're trying to make this kind of deal, like of course Tommy is going to tell you what you want to hear, so I can't really fault him for that because I'm not exactly sure how he would go about it, but yeah, of course Tommy is going to say like, you're fine, we definitely want to work with you.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch Tommy here. It makes me think of, and I want to be very clear, I am not comparing anybody's game to anybody else's game in this comparison. It's the situation that I found similar and interesting. It reminded me of like, what if Donnie won an HOH in Big Brother 16? Like, how does Derek deal with that? Because Donnie was one of the, like, basically the only person in the house willing to actually do something about the current state of the house. And I feel like the same is true of Cliff in this particular instance. And Cliff, we got lucky and we got the Cliff win, and now we're seeing like how Tommy has to, who was the person in the best position before this. Now how does he deal with what looked like would have been a big steamroll toward the finish where Tommy wins, to now all of a sudden he's kind of in trouble, and how does he deal with that adversity? And so far, not dealing with it super well. Now, his position was so good, as we see, that he is protected by a lot of different people, and both him and Christy are eventually kept off the block, and he is not going to be targeted, and he's still probably not going to be targeted even going into next week or even the next couple of weeks. So positionally, his super strong position from before is keeping him safe. But he has been so used to getting his own way that he's lost a little bit of what got him to that good position in the first place. I think he got a little too in his own head, and now he is floundering a little bit. And so I'm very curious to see where that goes from here, because he still has a lot of room left in the game because of that great position he was in, and I'm curious to see what he does with that room.
Yeah, I mean, so he is absolutely kind of, you can see him freaking out. I mean, he has gone from being in such a well-insulated, safe position to potentially going up on the block this week. And I think what he doesn't realize is that now it's time to pivot. This is the time to take advantage of the other social relationships that you have in the house, and you have to be willing to reshuffle. And he is been all about, behind Cliff's back, obviously, about trying to keep the grateful together, which makes absolutely no sense in this moment. And he's having a hard time. I think he's getting lost reading other people and really putting himself in other people's shoes and understanding, oh, how do Nick and Bella feel in this moment? Because he feels like he can still pull them in and eventually target Cliff and Sam, instead of thinking about, okay, I need to take stock of my current position in the game. I need to take stock of my current relationships, think about how other people view me now and of how the house is reshuffling, and then move forward from that. And so I think there's a little bit of like pulling back into his comfort zone of no, Grateful was working. Grateful was great. And trying to bring that back and rekindle that feeling. So yeah, today was not a great day for Tommy overall, I think. But I think maybe once he has the ability to calm down, or if you can get past this week, like you said, there's 60 something days left in the house. So we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, he just spent a month in a killer in a completely, he is the front runner, everything is working out, he is perfectly primed to move forward. There are 3 months in the Big Brother game. He spent the entire first month looking like everything is perfectly set up and nothing can stop us, and then Cliff Hogg shows up to the party, and now he's like, come on, just one Cliff HOH is enough to ruin my entire plan. Surely we can get back on track. And we'll talk a little bit more about whether or not that's possible, I guess, once they get into that. But yes, he's definitely floundering a little bit, and he's struggling, and he's trying to find his way through this week. He certainly will, I imagine, survive the week, and will probably again be around for a little while after. But right now he's looking for a new home, and he's trying to turn the new home into the old home.
Yeah, not good.
Well, Cliff is going to say that Cliff is, after his talk with Tommy, also now going to start to veer away from talking about Tommy as a pawn. It's a lot now. It's Jack and Tommy. He's going to quickly talk to Christy and give her the same thing again. Nothing personal. It's numbers. Personal is this way. Rational is this way. I have to go with rational. And I hope that we can work together if I protect you and Tommy, and so on and so forth. And so then he talks to Sam, and he lets Sam know, okay, I'm thinking Jack and Jackson should be the picks here.
Yeah, Sam's like, yay, the idea I floated this morning stuck.
Yeah, Sam is gonna be like, haha, I did it.
What a mastermind. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Cliff does recognize, like, it's a numbers game. These are the two I'm gonna settle on, because he wants to take a big shot, and he's talking about how he can't be nervous about what's going to happen in the future. But I think there is a little bit of him that's trying to look towards the future in terms of making the connections with Tommy and Christy, whether or not that's a good move or not. That's not necessarily true. But yeah, that's definitely what he's thinking of. And like you said earlier, it's just in terms of numbers, and he keeps using the term this week was strange bedfellows. So that's what Nick and Bella are, the strange bedfellows. He may not respect the games that they're playing, but he understands how numbers work. I mean, he is an engineer, so he can put 2 and 2 together and understand that, yes, he's going to target the 6, and of the 6, Jack and Jackson are the 2 he's thinking about putting up.
Yes. And so Sam loves that. Obviously, he thinks they can get Tommy and Christy on board, and they can get rid of Jack this week. And bonus is that if Jackson has a power, then this will hopefully flush out Jackson or Jack's power. So everything's looking great. Everything's going to be fine. Sam is going to go talk to Christy, and he's going to, hey, we're good. Everything's fine. I worked some magic. We're going to be working together. Everything's going to be great. And she tells him, like, yeah, I'm not going to use my power. Screw that. I'm not wasting my power on this dumb alliance. I hate Jack. You know that. We've been talking about it for a while. And, we trust each other so much.
Christy talks so much. So the 2 conversations between Cliff, Tommy, Cliff, Christy. Tommy comes in and says, do you have any questions for me? And lets Cliff talk. Christy just talks and just talks and talks and talks. And one of the byproducts of talking is you have to say things when you talk. And sometimes you say things that maybe you shouldn't say, or just it's like every single passing thought that floats through her brain gets emitted somewhere to somebody in the house.
Completely. You're so right.
And
That's what Christy does.
Oh, so right.
You're
Yes,
so
so
right.
right.
You're
So
so
right.
right to think that, Liana. Continue. Sorry, you're just so right. I just wanted to say that you're so right about that.
Thanks for talking. It's so much. It's so much. And
Yeah, of
so,
course it's so much. I mean, I would totally understand why it's so much. I mean, you're completely right in thinking it's so much, Liana.
oh my gosh, I don't know how people like her in the house though, and people seem to
Yeah,
think
I don't
that
know what's up
she
with that. I don't know
is.
why people like her so much. It's such a weird thing that people do. I just don't know. I mean, you're completely right in thinking that people like her, but it's definitely you're also right that it's weird.
That's right. I can't even do this. It's so hard to have a
I can't do
conversation.
it either. I completely
All right,
understand. It's really difficult.
I'm
It's a really
done.
hard thing to do.
Oh my gosh, Taryn, I'm so grateful. I respect you so much. I just have so much respect for you, bro.
You know what? I have a lot of respect for you as well, and I think that we can really work together. It seems like we're really in sync.
All right, all right. That bit is done. Anyway, so she talks about, yes, she's not going to use it. Now all of a sudden we learn, okay, Christy might not use it, although there's no details. Just what if I make it 2 more weeks and then they cut me? Like I'm not going to use it. I'm playing my game, blah blah blah. That's Christy.
Yes, that's Christy. So Sam feels very, very comfortable with Christy. Sam is going to have a conversation with Christy a little bit later in the day, but we'll just I like to consolidate sometimes. And so he has a conversation with Christy where he's like, "Hey, were you in any alliances that I'm not aware of?" And Christy's like, "Uh oh, alliances. Well, like, me and Tommy." Well, yeah, but like an alliance, like a big alliance. She's like, I mean, Tommy, me, Jack, Sis, Jackson, Holly, like the six. And he's like, is there a name? She's like, for the six. And she is about to just like pop this whole thing wide open. And he goes, no, the eight. She's like, oh, Grateful. Yeah, no, you knew about Grateful. Everything's Grateful. It's like, no.
Oh, so close. Yeah. And then also like, oh, well, she was saying, well, Jack and Jackson and Sis and Holly, they assume that me and Tommy are with them,
Mm-hmm.
like it'd be stupid for me to really go along with that, blah,
I
blah,
know
blah.
I'm on
She's
the
like,
bottom of that
yeah.
thing, and
So
yeah.
I'm aware. Like I'm aware. Don't worry. I'm with them. I'm not with them. So it's okay.
Yes. All right. So then Sam is going to talk to Nick and Bella, and he tells them what the nomination plans are. And they're all very pleased. They're all very excited. This is great. Sam is trying to figure out like how to force the situation so that Jack is the one to leave in case anybody doesn't want Jack to leave. And then then Sam goes, this is perfect. Here we go. We get Jack out, and then everything is back to smooth sailing. We can take out Cliff next week, and we're back to where we were. Nick and Bella are just like, no, no, Sam, no.
That's not how that works. This is like reliving the glory days. Like it's okay. We'll be able to just go right back on track. Just Jack is the real problem.
Just get
Yeah.
rid of Jack, and then it's actually Grateful again. We
Yeah,
got an 8.
and it's 8, right. Yeah, that was like, what, Sam? No, come on, buddy. So at least like Nick and Bella are thinking, no, like we have to take the minority, the people who are on the outside, we have to make it the majority. Like this needs to be our new team. Talking about reshuffling and restructuring. So thankfully, at least someone said it in the house, because I was a little worried that, the minority was still going to be scattered and we were going to see stuff like this where Sam was just going to, for 1 week, dealing with, Cliff as the HOH and then go right back. So it was nice to at least have, I can't believe I'm saying this, Sam or Nick and Bella as the voice of reason.
Their anger and hate is finally directing them on the correct
Good.
path.
This time,
For
apparently.
now.
Yeah.
So despite that, Sam will be. You're right. That makes sense. But I mean, we should be working with Christy and Tommy. We should be getting back with them. Flaming Five. We need to be working with them. We can trust them. Especially Christy. We can trust her. We can make this happen. And they're a little bit just kind of like agree to disagree on that for now.
Yeah, there are bigger fish to fry, I suppose, at the moment than to worry about this. Although, this is what happens. You need to start putting things into motion now to set yourself up for what would happen in the future, because then you're just always constantly going to be scrambling. But, hopefully that will happen over the course of this week.
Yes. So Cliff is going to talk to Jackson as well. Jackson lets Cliff know that Ovi had the first power. He says that Ovi sat him down prior to the camp comeback competition and let him know that he wanted Jackson to tell Cliff that he had the power. He told Jackson and Jack about it, and he didn't tell Cliff because he wanted to protect it. The logic there is a little off, but basically just like, sorry, bro, I had the power, and didn't work out. And so now Cliff knows about the fact that Ovi had the power, and he knows that Nicole or Bella or whoever do not have the power.
Yes. So that piece of information happened. Also, Jackson let Cliff know how much he respects him.
Yes.
And respects his game. And then also, I can't remember if he talked in this point about volunteering, but like we've talked about, he volunteered to go up on the block. And the phrase that he kept using yesterday was, "I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees," which just, it feels so perfect for Jackson. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if he had it tattooed on himself somewhere, but he'd rather, yes, die on his feet than live on his knees.
Yeah. There are a few people in the house that I feel like their age really shows. Jackson is one of those people. Just like every once in a while, in fact, pretty often, you really just, oh yeah, he's pretty young. Same thing with Bella, where it's like, oh yeah, she's really young here. It's not very world weary yet.
Yeah, exactly. And very much speaking in absolutes about everything. Like it has to be this way.
Everything
So
is a
extreme.
philosophical statement.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was gonna say he'd have it on his MySpace page, but then
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I think he's too young. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
So he talks to Cliff. Cliff says he doesn't want Jackson to go home this week, but if he did go up on the block, it would be, of course, just as a pawn. And this kind of makes sense because Jackson did volunteer to be a pawn. He was hoping that he would be a pawn next to Nick, but things don't always work out, Jackson. Sometimes you have to go through hardships, and then later on you'll appreciate them for what they are.
That's right. Being on the block, the not being able to eat the food, the watermelon just staring him right in the face. True hardships in life.
Oh man, so hard. So hard. He's later going to find out that the live feeds don't cut away when he's hooking up with Holly. Another hardship.
That was so good. This is like really late, and Kat breaks the news that the feeds don't cut away, and there are videos of people having sex on the live feeds, and Jackson is just like, "What?" And then completely silent. Gets up. Tommy's like, "Are you upset?" And then no, I'm just getting something to put under the bed. Okay, Jackson, you're very upset in this moment. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
It was a hard day. It was a really hard day for Jackson.
Hard day for Jackson. It's just going to add to his character, though, so don't worry about it.
That's right. It's character building.
Cliff is going to talk to Nicole. He's going to have a couple conversations with Nicole. But in general, what they amounted to was that Cliff is taking a shot at the 6. He hopes that she understands because he knows what happened between her and Nick and Bella, and he appreciates that is a difficult situation for her, and he would love to retaliate for her. He does not agree with how she was treated, and he does not respect Nick or Bella. He does not respect their games and doesn't want to work with them. But numbers wise, it doesn't make sense for him to do the 6's dirty work. And Nicole says, "I completely understand. I think you are right. I think that you are doing the right thing." And she says, "You know what? I've talked it through with Nick. Nick and Nicole have mostly, mended those fences. Bella, not quite as much, unsurprisingly. In general, now that Nick and Bella know that the Six were working against them, they have finally come to realize that Nicole was still a liar and pinned them against the Six, and it was all Nicole's fault. But also then separately, the Six were actually against them, and they can't just admit that Nicole was right and they treated her poorly.
Yeah, I mean, of course not. We were wrong. No, not that. We're just going to continue to move forward with two things that don't seem to be compatible with one another, but that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I think it all goes back to like this the strange bedfellows comment that Cliff kept talking about, you know, being willing to work with these people and pull them in. I think what was frustrating was because Nick correctly says, this is the group of people we need to pull in. We need to get Jessica. We need to get Nicole. We need to, you know, with Cliff, Sam, myself, and Bella, we need to pull this group in. And yet I saw no effort to actually accomplish that throughout the entire day. And so we still have sort of these small pairs of like awkward interactions between those that are in the minority. And so that does not give me hope that they will be able to coalesce and come together. But you know, who knows, depending on how the Vita goes.
Yeah. You know, we'll talk about it a little later as well, but I think there's still a strong desire from both Nick and Bella to be with the cool kids. That they, like, it's difficult for them to admit that they are not one of the cool kids and that they were rejected from them. And so part of them wants to blame Nicole. Oh, it's Nicole's fault that we got kicked out, and now we're on the outs, and we're going to take shots and all of that stuff. But they still, I think, want to be with the cool kids. And that's why I'm worried that this anger might not last long enough for this to be a permanent split. Nick is later going to talk to Sam saying, it sucks that we have to work with the dregs, like we have to work with Jess and Kat, like, oh my god. You know, he's very appreciative of Cliff. Cliff saved them. He says he will be loyal to Cliff, but he doesn't want to work with Kat and Jess. He wants to work with Sis and, you know, and these people, and so, you know, for as much as Tommy is unable to get out of his headspace of let's reunite these people, I do think that there is a danger that it could happen, you know, a little bit down the line if some time passes and some circumstances permit it. So I am worried about that with Nick and Bella. But right now they're on our side. But just don't put too much faith in them.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, that was kind of what I was hoping for with all the momentum of Cliff coming back in, Cliff winning. We rally up all the kids on the out, and we're gonna go after the cool kids. We're gonna go after the Six, and I think that is a little bit of a pipe dream, just based on the details that I saw from people like Nick. And so that is a little frustrating. But I don't know. The problem is that they need a leader. They need someone that will actually come in and pull them all together. And I think, like you said about Nick and Bella still wanting to kind of work with the cool kids, although Bella maybe less so. Definitely Nick with his relationship with Sis. I mean, that's just such a strong pull for him. So he even talks about like, oh no, I think we can pull in Sis. Like Sis will definitely, we can pull her in like on our side. Just once we get rid of Jack, we can pull her in. So the read on the house is a little not great.
Yes. So, I mean, which is an interesting position for Sis, because if Jack does end up leaving this week, then she's actually, I think, in a much better spot than before, with both sides wanting to work with her and protect her and bring her down to the end and no longer having a target on her back. But of course, she's going to be dragged to that good spot kicking and screaming because she's Sis.
Yeah, I mean, and it's because she's not a threat at all.
Yeah.
So
it's just like, just get ready for, you know, dealing with her for the rest of the season. If Jack goes,
I'll prepare myself. I'll put my big girl pants on. We'll get ready for this.
So let's see here. Cliff is talking to Nicole. She gets it. We should be going after the Six. Nicole is like, it sucks though, because I felt like, you know, the Six, they're pulling me in, and I feel like I finally landed somewhere, and now it's probably like still not landing somewhere, but it completely makes sense. We're doing the right thing. Cliff says, you keep working them, I'm gonna keep working this side. We can come together at some point. Hopefully, we get to some kind of end game with the Outcasts, and we're able to make something happen. We can take out Nick and Bella down the line, and everything will be all right. So that's the plan. Nicole is gonna continue to be reeled in by the Six and be on their side in the same way that Kat is getting reeled in by the Outsiders. They are both acting as sort of rats at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have a situation where it is a clear, like 6 people voting in one direction to blindside another group of people to save somebody, like actually the lines are pretty clearly drawn just on paper. And so I think that that's sort of what they're thinking about, where Nicole, oh, they say the 6 saved me. So clearly, based on paper, I would be with them. And so I can try to continue to be with them, get information from them, and then Cliff, being the one blindsided and evicted, could then clearly be on the other side. And so, like I said, at least on paper, it like sets them up as diametrically opposed. But they thankfully are able to, come together and talk about how they might want to try to be rats, or at least Nicole, and get information from that side, and then actually work together moving forward.
Yeah, and Nicole has been put in that position. She doesn't want to be in that position because it's not the best position. She is a tool being used. She's now in the Cat position. Like, that's not where Nicole wants to be. She wants to be in a group working toward her end game, not separated from the group that she might end up in the end game with. It does present her with some more opportunities, though, depending on how things play out. So it'll be interesting to see, but it's not Nicole's ideal placement, given that she wants to feel like comfortable and be around people she likes. But it's the game sometimes.
I mean, I get it. And also the fact is that 6, yes, they saved you, but they didn't tell you that they were going to save you. And so it's not like she has all this trust with these 6 people, right? So it is still sort of almost like, the planet, and like the 6 is the planet. She's just like the moon circling around. She's like, they're like, hey guys. So it's not like, like they're super tight. And it's kind of a precarious position to be in, balancing between these groups.
Yes. So we finally get to the nomination ceremony. We're going to get to the nomination ceremony, and it's happened. It's happened. Jack and Jackson are on the block. Jack and Jackson are nominated for Eviction. It's very, very happy, fun times because Jack and Jackson are on the block.
It seems Orwell is very happy as well.
Orwell is extremely pleased because we're going to get a wonderful moment where Jack is talking with Tommy in the storage room, and he is like, you know what I just realized is if I don't win the veto, then I'll still be on the block next to Jackson, and if I'm a dick to people now, then they're not going to vote to keep me next to Jackson, and I'll be voted out.
It was like seeing the wheels turning, like very slowly, and they were clearly rusted, but he was getting there, realizing how Big Brother works.
Yes.
And that was truly lovely.
He hasn't had to play Big Brother because he's been playing Big Twists for a month, and he hasn't had to worry about the actual game of Big Brother, and he's finally realizing it, and it's so lovely. He does say that once the veto is won, he can be a dick again.
Yeah. Okay, good. That didn't last long.
But then Tommy's like, but then you got to worry about next week. You should never be a dick. And he's like, surely that's not how it works.
That doesn't make sense. I've been a dick my whole life.
Yeah, and it always works out for me. I don't know. Yeah. I don't get it, Tommy. I don't know if this is right.
That's why I'm alone with my dog. Because it like works out in life. Yeah, no, that was so good. And when we came back from the nomination ceremony, there was also crying, and there's this video, or I guess it's just a still out there of a single tear rolling down Jack's face. It is just poetic.
Yeah.
crybaby moment, just the single tear.
We're gonna
Really
get another
lovely.
conversation between Jack and Tommy, and Jack is just like, if things don't work out, I think that's fine. I was thinking that I forget his dog's name. I miss my dog, and I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna be back with my dog soon. So that's a win too. That's a W for me. So, I'm just thinking maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to go see my dog again.
At least he gets to go home and see his dog. Yes. Oh man, all of the hardships in this house. I mean, really, it's amazing that they're all
Layla.
still in there. Oh, that's the dog's name.
Yeah,
Yes.
Layla.
Oh, so sad. Single tear.
Yeah. And Tommy is also going to be crying with him. It's so sad how much you miss your dog. I guess, I don't know.
Is that what he was crying about? I don't think that that's what it was. But yes, Tommy is a little obsessed with Jack, and so he just empathizes so much. He can't help but also shed some tears about the situation.
Yes.
I think Christy was also sniveling at least a little bit. It was kind of hard to keep track of everybody crying, but they're very upset. And meanwhile, Jackson storms off to the DR. So, I don't know. Maybe he was crying in there too.
Maybe. Jack is also going to throw away Cliff's cereal boxes.
Okay, this actually did happen because I heard other people talking about it, but I must have missed it.
Yeah, they talked about
on TV.
it. But then Cliff did have his cereal boxes,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how he got them back. If they talked to Jack and they if he threw them away, then it can probably just get them out of the trash can and put them back. I don't know if they made Jack do that, or if they did it themselves, or if Cliff did it, or if he never did it in the first place and only talked about doing it. But at the very least, there was talk of / actually throwing away Cliff's cereal boxes, which he wanted to use to turn into a space helmet thing, because it's the anniversary of the moon landing, and he wanted to pull a Chicken George or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was working on it last night too. He was
Yes.
making something out of these boxes.
I'm being told Nick is the one that took them out of the trash can.
Nick took them out of the trash. Oh, okay. Well, it's a closed house, so I don't know where. It's not like Jackson is allowed to go out behind the lot and throw them away in a bin. So, but yeah, that was it was really mature of Jackson to act out in that way.
Well, yeah, it was Jack, wasn't it?
Or Jack. I thought
think-
Jack's. Was it Jack or Jackson? This is why they call him Mitchie. They're pushing Mick, whatever. Jack. I think it was Jack. Yes, Jack. And Sam was talking about it. That's what I have.
I think there was also talk of Jackson trying to mess with things, but I'm pretty sure Jack is the one that did it.
Yeah, Jackson later talks about how he takes really long showers and uses up all the hot water, and how he's like a regular Russell Hantz, just in there messing with people. But yes, okay, that was Jack with the cereal boxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that was before he came to the realization that he shouldn't be a dick to people.
Yes. I think so. I think it was right after. Yeah, it was right after the ceremony, before the wheels really started to turn.
It was probably the thing that made him realize, maybe I shouldn't.
Maybe I shouldn't have done this. But then, of course, he doesn't do anything to rectify the situation. Nick then ends up out of the trash. So
why would he rectify the situation, Liana? That would be messing with the situation that was already rectified by throwing the cereal boxes away in the first place.
That's true. I forgot. He had already solved the problem.
Yeah. Christy's going to be talking with the 6 shooters, and Sam and Nick are going to be in the room as well. She says she's not going, she says she is going to use her power. All we need to do, just one of us needs to win veto, and I will use my power, and we'll put someone else on the block. That's definitely not Nick or Sam, who are in the room right now. We're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. But then after they leave, she's talking to Nick, and she says, I'm actually not going to use the power. It's why would I do that? I'm keeping it for myself. I'm going to say that they were pressuring me, just like they did in week 1, and then I'm not going to use it. And Nick is like, great. And Nick kind of believes her. Sam definitely believes her. Bella does not believe her.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really hard to keep track of like who Christy told she was or was not going to use the power to. So definitely to Nick and to Sam. I mean, she's saying like, I'm not going to use it. I'm definitely not going to use it. I'm going to say that they were bullying me, which is just the word bully. I mean, I don't know if there's something in the air of that household that just makes the word bully always constantly be used for so many different things. But so
Liana,
that's
stop bullying them.
yeah, I can hear it now. And so yeah, so she definitely is trying to say like, oh, don't worry, I'm definitely not, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. And like, thankfully, Bella is at least somewhat suspicious of the situation. Although to be 100% honest, I have no idea what Christy would do. I really genuinely don't.
Well, she's going to talk to Tommy later in the night, and I think that will give us a little bit of a hint, at least. But I do think I think you're right in that I don't think, again, this is what I was talking about when we started the podcast. I don't think she realizes the limitations of her power when it comes to saving herself and the benefits of her power when it comes to using it this week. And so we'll talk about where her head is at with that, where it actually is at, later on when she talks to Tommy. But first, Holly's going to talk with, or sorry, Kat's going to talk with Holly and Jackson. And Kat is just like, I think being intentionally obtuse, or maybe just being regularly obtuse, where Jackson's on the block and she's just like, this is fine. This is what you wanted, right? And he's like, no.
You volunteered.
But
This
you'll
is
be safe. There's like a back door or something, right? Like Vito's gonna work out. Like he's like, no, this is bad. And she's like, what, really?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this conversation was. I mean, if she was actually playing and trying to get information, like good on Kat. But I mean, yeah, she essentially is saying like, well, if you pick me for the veto, yeah, I'll definitely take you off.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want you to go home.
Holly and Jackson are going to tell her like to make sure she keeps working the other side and making sure that they think that she's with them. At which point she asks like, well, can I use the veto on you then if I win it? And they're like, oh yeah, you should definitely be using the veto on Jackson. So that's that. Kat says she wants to use the veto on Jackson. Now Kat is another person. You don't always know where her head is at. My inclination is that she is actually with Jackson and Holly. Not only does she have the outside connection with Holly, but I do think that she still has, she has that like on and off relationship with like loving Jackson and hating him because he dumped her. And so there's a little bit of a thing there, but she's still with them. She still tells them a lot of information, more information than she tells the other side. And she is going to have a conversation later in the day, which implied to me again that she does want Jackson to stay in the game. And that's important. It's very important because, phase 2 of talking about Christie's Diamond Power of Veto, if Christy uses the Diamond Power of Veto and uses it to put up Bella or Sam, or it's going to be either Bella or Sam, which we'll talk about, then the votes are going to be very tight. They need 6 votes to evict. There are 10 votes, just like last week because Cliff came back into the house. And so they need 6 votes with to stay. And so they will have, let's say, it's, Jack and Jackson on the block. Let's say Jack comes down, Bella goes up. They would have Sis, Jack, Holly, Christy, Tommy. That's 5. They need a 6th vote to send Bella or Sam home. And Kat would be that vote. And Kat is pretending to be on the other side, and they think that they would have Kat's vote, but it would be 5-5 if Kat voted with the Outcasts, and then Cliff would break the tie to send Jackson home in that particular instance, or Jack home if Jack was still the one on the block. And so they need to have Kat's vote, and I don't think that they have it. And that's something that we have to keep tracking as the week goes on.
Yeah, I mean, something that was really frustrating to me yesterday was what I mentioned earlier about, okay, let's get together all of the misfits and let's make something more solid, because right now all the connections are just I mean, loose at best. And I think that Kat, which I completely co-sign, I think that she is probably more along on the side of Jackson and Holly. And she would probably, if it was Jackson on the block, would want to keep him. And so I think that, I don't know who it is that really needs to like pull Kat in and make sure that she is on the side of the misfits. But she is potentially going to be the swing vote this week.
Yes, and I do think that if Kat goes that way, exposing herself, she probably pulls Jess in as well, to be honest. Jess also loves Jackson. Jess loves Christy. Cliff has talked about how Jess should be working with them, but Jess's head's in the clouds. Like, she's going to go along with Kat and Jackson and Christy and Tommy. And I think that it will turn into a 6-4 vote to a 7-3 vote. And all of a sudden it is back to business as usual. And that will be very unfortunate.
Oh my gosh. There was a conversation last night with Jess, Tommy, and Christy, and I just wanted to, Jess, come on. Like, I need more from you. And I think that because she has such a strong relationship with Christy and with Jackson, if it's them, if it's not Jack as the target, I definitely think Jess would, like you said, go along with Kat and stay on that side. And so we're not going to have the misfits upset. So that, well, wow, let's not put that out into the world. That would be like worst case scenario.
Yeah, and I think it's actually kind of likely.
Gosh, Taran. Goodness, what did I just tell you? What does Christy say about you have to manifest your own destiny and whatnot?
I manifested the Cliff HOH win and comeback with Orwell, so maybe it's true.
See, like Jack was walking around the house saying dead man walking. Christy told him not to do that because you manifest your own destiny. So let's not put this out in the world because I do not want that to happen.
It is funny, like how Twitter works, where I had a tweet that was, "The Jacks are on the block. It's time to party," and that has 1,600 likes right now. And then the following tweet that I made right after it. All right, bad news is that Christy has the Diamond Power veto. She's going to use it. That is 200 likes. Big disparity between how well the tweets do and what news you're delivering. Very much like the Big Brother house, where they like to shoot the messenger.
Yes.
Lots of angry comments on that tweet as well.
I'm sure. And and directed at you for just saying that this might be a thing that's happening. Hey guys, fair warning. Like, I understand that Jack and Jackson are on the block right now and we're all really happy, but let's be prepared for the potential fallout of Christy using her power and, Nick or Bella going home.
Yes. All right. So Nick is going to talk to Sam. This is when they're talking about how they're realizing they're not the cool kids anymore. They're stuck with the bottom feeders and it sucks, but they have to work with Kat and Jess and see where that goes. And really, the problem here is that I don't think, as we talked about, I don't think they have Kat and Jess, and even if they think that Kat and Jess have to work with them, players don't always operate on logic, because that's what they're like. Even Cliff and Nicole are falling into this trap. They're like, well, obviously Kat and Jess have to work with us. There's no other option. There's no way that those two would just glob on to the already existing 6, where they are very much at the bottom, especially because of how tight that 6 is. Surely they would never do that. They have no choice but to work with us. And the answer to that is there's always a choice in Big Brother, especially when you're talking about recruits.
Yeah, I think the whole basis of, even Cliff is talking about, like, my emotions are telling me one thing, but rationally I have to go this way. And so thinking that that's the same logic that everyone else is going to apply to this situation is flawed, especially when you're dealing with people like Jess or like Kat, and you can see the people that they're hanging out with. Like, I don't know if Nick thinks that, of course they're just going to go with the math, like those relationships mean nothing. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So that's what I was saying, is like, I go get them, go like make relationships and like tell them that this is what's going on. Because meanwhile, like, Jess is having the conversation with Tommy and Christy, and they're doing good work to like continue to bond with Jess, whereas like Sam and Nick are just like hanging out, talking about how, well, it's us versus them. Like, of course we all have to work together. It's like, can you tell your theoretical allies that? Because they don't know this.
And the problem is when you try to tell them, they get offended.
Yeah.
What? I'm not an outsider. How dare you?
Exactly. So you're not going to be able, you have to come up with branding. It's all about branding,
Yes.
okay? Not misfits. You can't call yourself misfits. It's like the new and improved alliance, right? Like you're cool, you're, sexy. Everybody wants to be in this alliance.
Super grateful.
So we are just super grateful. Yes. I don't know how good the sequel will be. So I don't know if we want to do that, but yeah, God, it's so frustrating.
So Nick and Sis are going to talk some. They talk about how they, would like, just general, like a little bit of flirtiness, a little bit of general what usually happens between Nick and Sis. Sis mentions that she doesn't trust Bella. She trusts Nick. It's just Bella. She just doesn't trust Bella. And Nick says, don't worry about Bella. I can convince her to not target you. And we can, we can make something work. We can, maybe work with each other down the line. We don't have to be targeting each other. So there is this connection. Sis is one of the people that they do feel like, Nick and Sam at least do feel like they can work with. Of course, when Nick brings this up to Bella, she's going to be like, no. Come on.
You can't talk. Don't tell her.
What are you? Didn't we talk about Sis?
Yeah.
When you know what? When Sis takes you guys out, I'm gonna laugh.
I know, like, but like Nick is gonna listen to Bella, because also then there's the whole thing about like, well, we're not that close. Like, I'm playing my own game. Yeah. Okay.
It's like I lied to her for the first time today. It's like, okay, thanks, Nick. You did such a great job at making me not feel jealous. You lied to her for the first time today.
Yeah, he's who's really proud of himself for that one. Like, see, all right, Nick.
All right, so let's see here. Holly's gonna talk with Kat. This is the conversation that really convinced me. Kat is, not that I was like not convinced before, but like more evidence in my opinion that Kat is with Jackson and Holly. Holly is talking about the difficulties that she's having in terms of her relationship with Jackson. She's wondering how worth it is in the game to be connected to him. It's making her a target, and it's something that she has to contend with down the road. Toward the end game, if he does stay, that he probably can beat her in the end, and she doesn't know how to handle that as well. And she even just kind of considers like, well, maybe it's a good thing for me if he just leaves this week. Maybe it would be okay. And Kat is like, no, that's not, no, we need him. We need to keep him. Like if Kat was like secretly working against them, I feel like she would have taken this opportunity to be like,
yeah, I guess maybe you're right. I had never thought of that before, right? I mean, play on her own thoughts, like push that forward, because then you still have your relationship with Holly. You get out one of the 6, right? So yes, agree with you. If she was actually working with the other side, then I think, well, that's the logical move that would be made. So maybe, I don't know. But that was very interesting to hear Kat essentially like reassure Holly, like, no, Jackson should stay, even though Holly is questioning that and questioning how her relationship with him impacts her position in the game.
Mm-hmm. So Tommy is going to talk with Christy. Now, Tommy is going to be a big old crybaby sore loser here. I'm just so disappointed in Cliff. I really expected him to be better than this, that he knew that he was not on the top of the target list, and now he is on the top of the target list. And I just expected him to be somebody that just went along with what we wanted and didn't fight back because that's the safer play. And it turns out he's not. And that is very disappointing.
Yeah, the 6 seem to have some sort of collective amnesia where they've forgotten that they voted Cliff out because they're so indignant about the fact that he would do something like that.
So
I think
disappointing.
just oh my gosh, I think even that like Jackson was saying at some point like something about Cliff. Oh, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like oh yeah, he's not doing the backdoor plan, he's not backdooring anyone, that's him being cowardly and not getting blood on his hands. Like wait, I'm sorry, what?
Mhm.
Like that doesn't even make any sense, but then like you're gonna be indignant about the situation. So yeah, that's a very odd um frame of mind that they've decided to put themselves in when it comes to Cliff's decision.
Yeah. Christy, though, says in regards to her power, she is not willing to go out on a limb for Jackson. That if somebody is going to use the veto on Jackson, or if Jackson wins it himself, she is not, or sorry, if Jackson wins it himself, sorry, she will only use the diamond power of veto if, this is why it doesn't make sense, because I'm trying to explain it and it doesn't make any sense. She says she's only willing to use it to save Jack, but the way that it would save Jack is if Jackson came off the block. So if somebody was taking Jackson off, then she would need to use it so that somebody went up next to Jack that would keep him safe. But what she says is that she will only use it if the person is taking Jack off the block, which is the wrong way to look at. Maybe I misheard her, but I'm pretty sure that's what she said, and it doesn't make sense. And maybe she'll figure it out. But the general, and I'm sure she will figure it out because they'll have more time to think about it. But the general gist of this is that she is only willing to use her power to save Jack and not Jackson. She is not willing to expend her power to save Jackson. It's not worth it to her. She does not feel close enough to him. He is not enough of a benefit to her game, so she is willing to let him go.
Yeah, so this is what is clear to me is her intent of only wanting to save Jack and not Jackson, like you said. The reason why I'm confused about what she would do, even though I understand her intent, is because of this super confusing nonsense of like, wait, okay, so if she wants to save Jack, that means she has to they need to use it on Jackson to get someone else put up that will go home instead of Jack. And so that's why it's confusing, because I think I heard the same thing, that she would talk about it, she would only use it if Jack was going to get taken off the block. But I don't think she remembers that the veto is also just a regular veto as well. Like it has its own power that you can take Jack off the block and save him, and you don't have to renom someone. So yes, so that's why it's still confusing, because I'm not sure if she like completely understands exactly what her power is and how it works and the way to use it effectively to get what she wants. But I think it's clear what she wants, and that is to save Jack.
Yeah, I'm only willing to use my power to save Jack. So I'm only willing to use it if the person is saving Jack. But if they're saving Jack, he's already saved.
Yes,
you
yes.
don't need to use the power. So I'm sure they will figure it out, because these things, you know, once you actually start thinking about the actual things, you tend to figure them out. And she's thinking about it theoretically right now, but yeah, very strange there. Christy still wants to go after Nick and Bella next. They're still her main targets here, but Tommy still would love to target Sam and Cliff first. Now Cliff is on the radar as well, and the reasoning being that Sam and Cliff are the people that can win competitions. They are more dangerous, and he still feels like he'll be able to reel Nick and Bella back into the fold if they are able to like make a power move. So like say Christy uses her diamond power veto, they get Sam on the block. That's what Tommy wants, and he's going to pitch that to the rest of the alliance, and most of them agree. And if they get Sam on the block, they send Sam home this week. Now the Nick and Bella, group has been crippled. They still have Kat, they still probably have Jess, and now it's just Cliff, Nick, Bella. If Tommy goes to Nick and Bella and says, look, we want Cliff out, he feels like he can pull Nick and Bella back in. And as frustrating as that is, I do feel like that would work. I do feel like he is stuck on that plan more than just that bit, though. I think he might want to try this even if he's not in that killer position, and that's where I think he will fail if he is too stuck on wanting to reinvent or sort of go back to where he was when he was in such a great spot. So I think that Tommy is, like I said, floundering a bit here, but I also worry that this could work and we might get back to status quo if he succeeds. And this is again why I wanted him and Christy on the block, because I think they are the only people capable of making something like that happen.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the logic is actually not that flawed if you just think about the game pieces. I think
Hmm.
right now, with the way it looks, because you have Nick and Bella saying, like, we want to go after Christy, and then you have Sam saying, I want to work with Christy, it looks bad in this immediate moment because it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you want to go after the person who really wants to work with you and save you, and yet you are going to target people who, or save people that are like coming for you. So, I think that at least in this moment looks really bad. But I think that he hasn't done anything terrible yet, and
Yeah, it's
so
just talk right now.
it's just talk right now. And so depending on how opinions change, if Nick and Bella do still feel like they want to work with the cool kids, then that Tommy's plan would be perceived differently than if they were still harboring anger towards him. I think some of the other things, like some of the details of what Tommy was talking about, like wanting to tell Nick beforehand that they were going to like backdoor Bella, like some of these details also send up red flags. But thankfully for him, he hasn't actually done any of them yet. Like you said, it's all been talk.
Yes, and I think one of the funniest parts about it is that for a while he hasn't trusted, and most of them haven't trusted Nick and Bella, and now that Nick and Bella are actually against them, they are starting to trust Nick and Bella a little bit. It seems they really took it well. They seem to still really want to work with us. Maybe we can work with them.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what's so funny about being able to read and empathize with other people and realize, like, hey, like, how you just blindsided them on live TV. Maybe they don't appreciate that. I don't know. It's like some weird form of like backwards day, like crisscross up in here wearing jeans backwards. Like, what? Don't get it.
All right. Well, Jack tells the six shooters about his power and that he will use his power to redraw the veto draw if two of six shooters are not chosen. So we're gonna get the veto draw, I imagine today, and
I think feeds are down right now.
Yes,
Potentially for
probably.
it, or it's just wake up call. I'm not sure.
Probably something along those lines, but we'll probably find out soon. And Jack's plan is so obviously three people get picked for the veto. There's three people already playing. If two of those people are not additional six shooters, he is going to try and redraw and see where that gets them. So this obviously makes it even more likely that one of the six shooters will win and that Christy can use her veto, and things are not great for everyone. However, we might get a situation, because Jack's power is so bad, where like one six shooter gets drawn and then he uses the redraw and then no six shooters get drawn, and that would be very fun.
Yeah, that would be really great. I think also, especially because you have two already up on the block. So that means you only have four to potentially pull from. And so, I'm no expert at math, but I think that probabilities would tell you that it is very likely that you would have a worse outcome if you decide to use your power. I mean, God, it's just such a terrible power. I mean, really, truly garbage. Like, there is no guarantee of any benefit. Like, it's truly a gamble. You can use it and make things worse. The other thing is that Jackson does say, like, well, Kat would be a good person to have place. Like, maybe if she was up there, don't use it. Yeah, we'll know whether or not he chose to use it after we get back from the veto draw.
Yes, and it is more likely that it does help, but just not like super. It's not very effective.
No.
But Jackson is a little bit upset that Jack didn't tell him about his power. What did you tell me, bro? And Jackson is going to admit to being the rogue vote in this conversation, and Tommy is going to, like I said, make sure that everyone is aware that Sam talked to Cliff multiple times. That's going to be one of his. He's going to ring that bell a lot. That, hey, Sam was up there talking to Cliff multiple times, and he's right. Sam was absolutely up there. He was pushing toward these nominations, and he's going to get a decent amount of them if they won the veto and Christy used the diamond, that they would be putting Sam on the block. So Sam is definitely in danger. Christy would love to put Bella on the block, so Bella is also in danger if the diamond power veto comes into play.
Yeah, I think it seems like Sam would be the majority, would want Sam to go up. I know Jackson talked about it, Tommy talked about it. Christy, if she has her say, would want Bella up there. I think one of the concerns about Sam is like, oh, well, is Sam actually going to go home? And I think that that's highly dependent on who he's up against. So I really think if it is Jack that stays on the block, I think Jack might go home potentially. If it's Jackson, though, I really highly think that Jackson would be staying. But I think there are a lot of variables in play about whether or not, who wins veto, whether or not Christy chooses to use her power, and then who would go up as the replacement nom. So it does get complicated, but hopefully after we figure out who won the veto, then we can have a clearer picture of how this week might play out.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be relying on Kat's vote either way. So obviously, if Jackson remains on the block, then it's very likely that Jackson stays. It's more likely that Kat votes Jack out because I do think she wants Jack out. But she would have to vote directly against what Holly and Jackson tell her to do and really just like completely separate herself from that group. And I have a hard time seeing her do that. So, it's more likely, but I still feel like Sam would go if he was up next to Jack personally. So that's about what we have for you, unless there's anything else, Liana, that you had.
Rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Oh, and then Christy said it later in the night. No.
We do have Ovi on Twitter. He said, Big Brother bucket list, play a bad strategic game, warn the 8-person alliance that there's an 8-person alliance forming, and win a powerful power, but trust way too many people. So that's what Ovi said. And I also just saw that Kemi, just like 7 minutes ago, tweeted for the first time, and she said, thank you to everyone for all the love and support this season. I'm extremely disappointed and disgusted by the behavior I'm being made aware of that has occurred thus far in the Big Brother house. The degrading and threatening comments made by some house guests and laughed at by others are outrageous and hard to see. I'm saddened to be associated with such a negative display of human character, and I'm horrified that this is now part of my life story. It's unfortunate how this season has transpired thus far, and while I appreciate the support, I do ask that the negative comments that have been made in my defense stop. I do not want to perpetuate the same negativity that I received in the house. Kisses, Kemi.
Oh, good for her. The thing that I love the most, I think, about Rob's exit interviews was when he told her, Kemi, about Tommy and Christy knowing each other.
So good.
Just like, wait, rewind.
She's like, no, this interview is pausing here. We need to talk about this.
Yeah, like the fork, that's not fair. Like, oh, it was so good. It was so good. If you haven't checked those out, definitely listen to Rob's exit interviews. They're up now. Really good.
Yes. All right. So make sure you follow Ovi and Kemi. I know David is on Instagram. I haven't seen him on Twitter yet. And I believe that Kemi may be referring to some of the comments David has been receiving on Instagram, that he has been a bit attacked, is what I've seen, because he said that Kemi was hard to live with, or I don't want to presume to know why they're attacking him, but I would imagine that's part of what she's talking about. Kemi, such a sweetheart. I love her. Make sure you follow her on Twitter, and Ovi as well, of course. And that's what we have for you today.
We did it.
We did it. Long one. There's a lot to talk about. And it was happy. Lots of happy things.
Yeah, much happier day than last week. Yeah, just grateful. Ugh.
All right. So thank you for joining us. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. You can find me on Instagram, Taran_Armstrong. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. Liana, where can people find you?
You can find me on social media at Liana Boris, LianaBoraas. Mike and I are going to be recording the B&B tonight. So coming back for the RHAP B&B, baby. So we are going to be recording with Matt Lagori. We have some really fun games planned. We're going to dip into Casual's Corner, talk about things that take about 45 seconds for some reason. And I think it's going to be a really good time. So definitely look out for that.
All right. Good stuff. All right. So thank you once again for joining us. And myself and Orwell will see you next time. I think Orwell will be a staple until the Cliff HOH ends.
You had quite an entrance yesterday. That was, if you haven't watched the video, go back and check out the video as the Taran Puya Friday update. As Puya just sits there sipping, Taran has a surprise entrance. So Very extra. Lovely.
I do my best to entertain the masses.
Doing a great
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.